God bless Doug Poppa, an honest cop.
See, we did it, Doug. You don't come out, you don't buck the system. No matter what the reason is, you just can basically keep your mouth shut.
The high price one cop is paying for telling the truth.
Welcome, folks, to the Doug Poppa Podcast, episode 157 for Sunday, September 1st, 2024. On Friday, August 30th, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department arrested Las Vegas Metro Police Sergeant Kevin Menon, M-E-N-O-N, 42, and charged Menon with multiple criminal violations relating to the abuse of power. More on that shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, the Doug Poppa Podcast was the first media outlet to report on Las Vegas Metro Police Sergeant Kevin Menon. On May 27th, I published episode 154. That was my exclusive breaking news story titled "Vegas Cops Targeted Citizens on Strip, Violated Civil Rights, Provoked Altercations to Make Arrest." On June 3rd, I followed up that story with episode 155 that was titled "LVMPD Suspended Sergeant is Also Defendant in 2020 Violation of Civil Rights Lawsuit." This is Sergeant Kevin Menon. That's his booking photo from Friday, August 30th. And we'll have more on that shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, here are two excerpts, they're short ones, from episodes 154 and 155. The link to the full YouTube episodes will be listed in the description section of this podcast when it's published. From Las Vegas, Nevada, this is the Doug Poppa Podcast, episode 154, from Monday, May 27th, 2024, with another exclusive breaking news story. Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department police officers harassed, provoked citizens, violated civil rights, and made false arrests on the Las Vegas Strip, according to police sources who spoke to the Doug Poppa Podcast. The allegations I'm about to discuss here are stunning. This illegal police operation involved plainclothes and uniformed cops working out of the Convention Center Area Command under the direction of Squad Supervisor Sergeant Kevin Menon, spelled M-E-N-O-N, according to the sources. Captain Stephen Connell, C-O-N-N-E-L-L, is the Bureau Commander of the Convention Center Area Command that covers the Las Vegas Strip. The topic of today's discussion, Las Vegas Metro Police Sergeant, relieved of duty, is also a defendant in a 2020 violation of civil rights lawsuit. In episode 154, I mentioned Las Vegas Metro Police Convention Center Area Command Sergeant Kevin Menon, M-E-N-O-N, the supervisor of the Flexible Deployment Team, commonly called a Flex Team, that was discussed in that episode 154. Now for some updated information. According to police sources, Sergeant Menon was relieved of duty and walked out of the Convention Center Area Command. Sources say that Menon is currently on administrative leave with pay pending the outcome of the Internal Affairs Bureau investigation. When you are placed on administrative leave, you have to relinquish all your department-issued equipment to include your building access keys, identification card, and badge. You have no police powers while you are sitting at home on the taxpayer dime on administrative leave. Sources say that administrative leave indicates that the allegations under investigation could possibly result in termination and/or criminal charges, or both. Okay, once again, ladies and gentlemen, the Doug Poppa podcast was the first media outlet to report on Las Vegas Metro Police Sergeant Kevin Menon. Now back to the charges. Like I said, Friday, August 31st, Kevin Menon was arrested and booked into the Clark County Detention Center on 13 criminal charges. You're not going to be able to see that the way that is. Okay, well, maybe a little better. Sergeant Menon was charged with 1 count of oppression under color of office with the use of force, which is a felony. 2 counts of subornation of perjury, felonies. 1 count of battery on a protected person, a gross misdemeanor. 8 counts of oppression under color of office, gross misdemeanors. Kevin Menon was later bonded out at the jail by a bail bonding company. According to Las Vegas Justice Court records, a hearing is set for October 7th, 2024, on a status check on filing of the criminal complaint. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a social media site that's it's a police site for current and former Las Vegas Metro police officers. It has nothing to do, it's not sponsored by the police department. And they go on there and they talk about different things to give their opinion. These are some comments. I have the names of the people that made these comments, but that's not pertinent to what's pertinent is their comments talking about the Menon arrest. All I will say is the pressure was put on him, and he put the pressure on his guys. Those who know, they know. This is 100%. However, don't work for people who pressure you to do illegal/unconstitutional shit. They aren't going to suffer any consequences, but you will, as Menon now understands. Yep, at the end of the day, you need to protect yourself because nobody will back you when you're at the lower end of the totem pole. The department pushes that shit. It's up to us to fight back against it, or we'll end up just like this. The only reason so many officers lucked out and haven't faced charges is because no one pursued it. For sure, just look at where the instigator of this crap is, as compared to where the person is who did their bidding. Accountability will always fall on the person who executed the plan, not the higher-up who pushed it. And even though there is no quota, it's still all about the stats. Action meetings, or whatever they're called now, drive this activity. It's not an excuse, but a reason this happens. The system is broken. Oh, you mean like when the department insisted for years on that, quote, party crashers, unquote, bullshit? We violated rights for years, and nobody said shit. Yep, going after the wrong one. There's a lot of them, ladies and gentlemen. This is just a few. So another one. When I retire, I will comment on this. So there you have it. Let me get back to something on that one comment, because I know people are going to ask questions. Let me read it again. For sure, just look at where the instigator, or I'll read this one, but that's not the one I want to read, but the instigator of this crap is, okay, as compared to where the person is who did their bidding. Accountability will always fall on the person who executed the plan, not the higher-up who pushed it. So the insinuations here that, and I covered this, I think, in some of these other two podcasts that I did, that this may have been ordered by higher-ups, okay? That remains to be seen. I don't have that confirmed, but that is the talk within the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department on sources who talk to me. These people doing these comments, I haven't spoken to. These were posted on that on that site. But let's get back to this one over here. Oh, you mean like when the department insisted for years on that, quote, party crashes, unquote, bullshit. We violated rights for years, and nobody said shit. Okay? I talked to some cops, and I said, what is this person talking about party crashes? What does that mean? And I was told that for years, officers would go to loud party calls, and they would ring the doorbell, knock on the door, whatever. When the door opened, they would enter the residences, even without being invited in. They would go in, and then they would do whatever they had to do, bring charges, make arrests, whatever that was going on. But they didn't have a search warrant to go in. They were never invited to go in, but they just more or less barged themselves into these parties and then took action, whatever that action would be. So that is what that one cop is talking to. And those comments are from some current and retired Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department officers, and it's pretty troubling, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, the Doug Poppa podcast was told that allegedly the Federal Bureau of Investigation was involved at some point in the Menon investigation, along with the criminal section of the Las Vegas Metro Police Internal Affairs Bureau. But the FBI relinquished the case to Metro to file state charges. Now, I think I said this before in the podcast, the Internal Affairs Bureau of Metro has two sections. They have a policy and detectives who do policy violations, and then they have a section that does criminal violations. So it's my understanding that the criminal section of the Internal Affairs Bureau was involved in this investigation. Okay. That said, ladies and gentlemen, that does not negate possible federal violation of civil rights charges in the future. The feds can always charge, and you've seen that in these type of police cases. When a cop violates somebody's rights, they get arrested. But the feds file federal civil rights charges. Whether that happens, we'll have to see. And then there's also the possibility, and most likely, of lawsuits that may be filed by the victims in this case, and time will tell on all of this. Now, I have a lot more information on this right now, but some of the stuff I can't talk about because it may lead back to certain sources, but we'll see how this pans out. Ladies and gentlemen, I published this as another exclusive story, and let me get the screenshot up there. Okay. This was episode 156, and it's another exclusive story, news story, and I published it on June 23rd, and the title is, as you can see up there, Jewish man wearing Star of David falsely arrested at pro-Palestine rally, LVMPD officer says. And then you can see the description section. I'll have the link to this. I'm not going to play an excerpt, but I'll have the link to this also in the description section. All these videos that I talk about will be in the description section, as usual, of this podcast when it's published. And then as you read on the bottom, it says the date when I publish it, June 23rd. Exclusive breaking news, episode 156, Sunday, June 23rd, 2024. A Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department police officer told the Doug Poppa podcast that a Jewish man who was wearing a Star of David necklace was falsely arrested at a pro-Palestine rally that occurred on November 4th, 2023, on the Las Vegas Strip in front of the Venetian Hotel. And again, there's nothing to do with it, but you could see, support my work if you can, paypal.me/Doug Poppa. Information, tips, no BS, no nonsense. Contact dpoppa at proton.me. That's an encrypted email service. So that's that article. Now, let's get rid of that. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that episode has nothing to do with Sergeant Kevin Menon. It does, however, remember, Sergeant Menon worked out of the Convention Center Area Command that covers the Las Vegas Strip. And that episode on this alleged false arrest that the police officer told me occurred back in November of last year involved officers from the Convention Center Area Command, and also Captain Stephen Connell is mentioned in this. I mentioned him in this podcast, the one I just described, the Jewish man getting arrested, false arrest. Captain Connell was the captain of the Convention Center Area Command during the Menon investigation and those allegations, and then also this thing I published. Now, I published something on my ex-Twitter account a couple of weeks ago. Actually, I don't think that was long ago. And I said that Captain Stephen Connell has been transferred out of command of the the Convention Center Area Command, and he's now the captain in homicide. Now, why that happened, I got some information, but I can't confirm it, so I'm not going to say, but he's no longer in charge of the Convention Center Area Command. Captain Stephen Connell is now the captain in charge of the Homicide Bureau. So we'll have to see. And ladies and gentlemen, I got a lot of information on these things, and a lot of times I can't talk about stuff that I know because it'll lead back directly to certain sources. And the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, the Criminal Intelligence Section, and Internal Affairs have been all over cops for a long time, even when I was writing for the Baltimore Post-Examiner, to try to find out who my police sources are. And to this date, as far as I know, because people still talk to me, they haven't found them. Because you remember, when I was writing for the Baltimore Post-Examiner for 5 years, from 2015 to 2020, we broke multiple stories, even during the massacre, and then it broke stories on the unsolved Land Kaufman murders and different things going on with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. As a matter of fact, people used to bring comments to the Baltimore Post-Examiner on our sites and say, if you want to know what's going on in Las Vegas with the police department, you need to go all the way to Baltimore, meaning that we were breaking stories that the Vegas media was not, for whatever reason. And then today, it's the same thing. People say, I put something on Twitter, I think yesterday, the day before, because people say, Doug, your podcast is the leader in Las Vegas for breaking exclusive news stories relating to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and other stuff that I do. Because in 2020, I started my podcast, and I'm still a contributor to the Baltimore Post-Examiner. They do publish some of my links in on their digital page that they have. So, but anyway, this Jewish man getting arrested falsely, that link will be in that story. Now, I broke something on Twitter, and let me get up on the screen here. I'll tell you what this is about. Okay, you can read it there, and I'll read it for audio podcast people. Don't see the video. So I published this on my X, that's formerly Twitter account, because I was having problems with the podcast with equipment, but now that it's fixed, I will do more stuff on short podcasts instead of just publishing everything on Twitter, because a lot of people don't follow the Doug Poppa podcast on Twitter. They do on YouTube, they do on LinkedIn and other sites. So anyway, I published this on August 16th. Again, it says exclusive to the Doug Poppa podcast, breaking LVMPD vice scandal. Sources, a vice sergeant on suspension for alleged criminal misconduct involving massage parlors retired this week during probe. And these allegations from my police sources. And then separately from that, female vice detective allegedly involved in with a pimp in a personal relationship that was under investigation. And that female detective, according to my sources, is married to another LVMPD officer who, so far I know, has nothing to do with what she did. And then I put on there, vice lieutenant transferred out because of scandal. Now, I heard he has nothing to do with this, but again, he's the lieutenant of the sergeant, so they transferred him out because somebody's get blamed for something. I guess that's the way to look at it. Now, on the second part, I published that the next day, and I said, exclusive update, multiple LVMPD sources have confirmed to the Doug Poppa podcast that the vice sergeant who retired while under investigation is former Sergeant Sean W. Lucero, Lucero. Allegedly, Lucero was taking bribes from massage parlors. And then I got in there, retiring shouldn't negate criminal charges, sources said. So that's what we got there, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I have more updates on that vice scandal, and I was going to talk about it in this podcast, but it's we're off at 22 minutes, and I'm trying to keep these podcasts shorter just to stay on topic, because if you go back and look at all the podcasts that I've done for years, some of them are an hour and a half, 2 hours, and a lot of people get frustrated. They say, Doug, you have so much information relating to the police department in some of these podcasts when you go off topic, and I do. Sometimes I'll just go on to other topics when I'm talking, and I put them in podcasts sometimes that are an hour and a half long, and inside there's good stuff. And so I'm going to try to keep the podcast shorter or just focused on what I'm talking about. So that's what we have here today, folks. Like I said, I have more information on the investigation on the Menon case, and as things progress, we'll see what we can get out. Again, I don't conduct these investigations. I'm a former criminal investigator, but my information comes from police sources and other sources on some of these podcasts that I do, and I have to rely on them, and then I put it out. The police department does not, and for a long time, does not acknowledge me on when I used to put in requests for the PIO. Sometimes they did. I have to do things, sometimes 2 or 3 weeks, the same questions, and once in a blue moon they'll answer. But there's something going on with the police department. Even when I was writing for the Baltimore Post-Examiner, which was it's an online newspaper, it's a legitimate newspaper, I was not allowed to go to the press conferences. And I got some people, there's some things going in the works right now, because regardless of what any of the media out here call me, sometimes they ridicule me and they'll say, they call me a video caster. And, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a former law enforcement officer. I wrote 5 years for the Baltimore Post-Examiner. We broke multiple stories, including on the Baltimore Post-Examiner, multiple stories on the Las Vegas massacre. I think pretty close to 160, and other stories. And none of the stuff that we ever broke was followed up by other media outlets. And it's the same thing now that people ask me, well, how come this and how come that? And I'll put a link into this also. And you got to remember the story I broke last year about Paula Prado Zuniga, the 74-year-old Hispanic woman that was stabbed over 60 times by her son, as Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department officers heard her screams as she was being stabbed to death, wanted to go in to make entry into the apartment, and were told to stand down by their sergeant. His name was Danny Cordero. Now, he was on modified duty for almost a year, and he's been busted down to an officer. That story is a national story. Locally, they should have done something with this, the media, but they didn't. And I have some other people outside of Nevada looking at it, but that's just one of the many stories that I broke. So, when I was doing this thing, and I don't have it in front of me right now, and I'll do this on another podcast, when I broke the story on Menon, the first one that I did with the making the false arrest, according to what I was told, I received emails from cops who were trying to convince me to drop and stay away from the story. I don't have the exact quotes with me in front of me right now, but it was stuff like, Kevin Menon is a good guy, and cops are making all this stuff up because they don't like him, and, the guy's a Harvard graduate and all this type of stuff, which, I just brushed it off. And, some of these things that I get, even years ago, they're threatening some of them, or, and they think they're going to intimidate me, but, and there was one that said, you were a good guy, you worked with Connell and one of the lieutenants when you were at the MGM, and they're good guys and stuff, because I was an investigator for years with the MGM Grand when I started with them back in 1993. I was over there 5 years, and I was a really good investigator. I was a great investigator and did a lot of work with cops from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, tourist safety, financial crimes and stuff. But this one person kept trying to convince me, tried to be nice to me, like, oh, I heard you were a great investigator and you did all this work with these guys on the Strip. And I responded to him, and I'm sorry I don't have it with me now, but I said there's no way I could have worked with Steve Connell when I was at the MGM back in the 90s, or this other lieutenant you're talking, because the lieutenant wasn't even hired yet, and Connell wasn't on the department at that time. He came from another department. So anyway, people say this stuff, and listen, I say this all the time. Anybody I mention in these podcasts, whether it was Steve Connell, I mentioned sometimes Under Sheriff Walsh, Sheriff McMahill, anybody, you have an open mic and an open invitation, I've been saying this for years, for me to interview you anytime you want to come on. If you want to dispute anything I say, which they've never done for years, even when I was writing for the Baltimore Post-Examiner, the police department never disputed any of the stories that we broke and I was breaking. They stay silent. And then behind the back, and I know they've done this with some people here in the media, they badmouth me. He's not this, he's not that. Ladies and gentlemen, my work speaks for itself. I don't know any explanation for the stuff that I do. Police officers and other sources give me information for stories, and I get it out. And if nobody likes that, that's just too damn bad, because it will still continue as long as I'm breathing, as long as I do this. And I'll be 70 years old in a couple of months. This is what I do on my retirement. I'm retired on Social Security. So anyway, if you can support me, okay, it's paypal.me/Doug Poppa. Contact dpoppa@proton.me. Tips, inquiries, I get them all the time. I get a lot of BS too, and I get a lot of stories, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sorry that I can't follow up on some of the stuff people send me. Even people send me stuff from going on in the criminal justice system. Everything's not just in Vegas. It's out of Vegas, different things, and I don't have the resources to follow up. So sometimes I will tell people you should contact this person in your area, and maybe they can assist you, because like I said, everything that I do here, I just fixed. That's why the podcast was out for a couple of months, because I had problems with the mic preamp and stuff like that. But that all comes out of my own pocket. Court records, documents, databases to do investigations, and that comes out of my own pocket, out of my Social Security. So if you want to support me, paypal.me/Doug Poppa. I appreciate it. And I will see you on the next podcast. Got a lot more information coming in about a lot of other things going on within the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Once again, Sheriff Kevin McMahill, Under Sheriff Walsh, any of these higher-ups in the police department, you have an open mic. And I'm more than willing to sit down and interview and talk to you about anything that I do. Of course, I don't think that's ever going to happen, because I've been saying this for years and I don't get any response. But you have an open mic. And so does anybody else that wants to talk about legitimate stuff. I get a lot of these calls that are BS and stuff, and emails that, anyway, so we're at the half hour on this. We'll let it go. And I have, like I said, I got more information on that Vice scandal. and some people who are involved in stuff and what's going on. I'll do that in a separate podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one. I want to make sure I didn't leave anything out. Got my notes here. If I do, we'll follow it up on another podcast. Thanks for listening.
I wouldn't do it all over again. I would take the badge and I would leave it on somebody's desk and get out of police work.
One man who confronted truth and consequences.